views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hi there, welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is, of course, our weekly TV program on BronxNet at the Hutch Metro Center, where we talk about all different Bronx issues and related issues with what we call a reporters roundtable. We did eventually get a roundtable, and we bring in reporters who want to talk about issues that are important to the people of the Bronx. You get to know who they are, you get to know what they're thinking, you get to know what they're writing about and why. And for us, it's really a chance to meet up with some people who are providing the media, providing the dialogue for us here in the Bronx. Tonight, we really have a special guest because he's actually not coming to us from the Bronx. He is coming to us from Long Island, as we say, although he probably would say it differently in Spanish. His name is Jose Martinez. He works at a publication called Noticia Long Island, and he also, as he's been telling me, does a TV show, kind of a community TV show, much like we do here with the Bronx Buzz and I do with Bronx Talk and many of BronxNet's other programs. So it's nice to have you, Jose. Welcome to the BX.
Thank you, Gary, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here.
So let's get to meet you, and then we certainly want to talk about issues which are going to be very important, not only to the Latino community, but to everybody in the borough of the Bronx, specifically about the new presidency and what we might expect. But let's talk about you. So you have been writing for Noticia, or now you're the editor, right?
Yeah.
You've been doing that for how long? Tell me about Noticia.
I'm in Noticia for like a year and a half now, and I just got promoted to editor, so it's a challenge, but thank you. But it's a responsibility too with our community. So for me, it's great to be in charge of giving this important news in Spanish.
Weekly publication, daily publication? It's
a weekly. Actually, today, we're working really hard after the elections, to get this new edition. It goes every week, but we're on our website all the time.
So the website is all the time, and then and we know this in the Bronx, much like many of our Bronx papers, they're weeklies, and you distribute them for free, or people pay for it?
It's totally free.
Totally free.
Yeah.
So people pick it up in their supermarket or in their local deli or wherever you can.
Yeah, that's the idea. The idea is to get the news, really close to the people.
Talk a little bit. First of all, one more question about you, and then we're going to get into the audience you serve, and what you and I were talking about previously was the similarities and differences between the Hispanic communities on Long Island and the Bronx. But what interests you about doing this, and why and how did you get into doing this sort of thing for a living?
Well, I'm an immigrant. That's the first part of the way I present myself, and when I see my people, a lot of our community don't speak English. And so when I got into the journalism here in the U.S., I try to be like a bridge between the Hispanic community and the American news. So that's actually the idea of like my path in journalism.
Well, it sounds like you're in. I mean, for me, that's it's why I do it, because have always felt that people in the Bronx, and I think I was quoted in the Times at one point talking about how poverty is as much a poverty of information as anything else. And clearly you're motivated by the same thing, that there's a compulsion to make sure that people understand the realities around them.
Yeah, because it's the only way that they can actually take decisions and vote.
Improve and everything else.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about. You also mentioned that there's a TV show or kind of a internet thing that you do on Long Island.
Yeah, we created in April a new show. It's called Café con Jose, which is a coffee with Jose.
With you.
With me. So what we do is bring our community leaders and have a coffee with them and talk about what's going on in their communities, and if they're promoting events or any issue that it's a concern for the community.
Yeah, Bronxites and people who watch this program, my program, Bronx Talk, and of course all the other BronxNet programs, open Dialogo Abierto, all the other programs, understand that instinctively because we have been blessed to have this network that provides that kind of programming. I'm thrilled to hear that that same brand, as it were, is going on there. And I know you're starting, and it's a great thing. Let's talk about the Hispanic community. Long Island has, I guess, the image of being, I'm going to say it because that's the language everybody's using now, rich and white on Long Island and a bastion of Republican politics. But we were talking before about the size of Latino community. You were expressing you don't know how big they are. Just characterize Latinos on Long Island for me, if you will.
Well, Long Island, as you said, it's one of the wealthiest areas in the country, but it's also one of the poorest areas in the country too. And we're dealing with these communities who are refugees that are coming from El Salvador or Central America, and these people ended up on Long Island. Some of them stay here in New York City, but some of them go there because their families are already established there in Hempstead, in other towns that we have.
I was going to ask you what towns specifically. In Hempstead is
Hempstead is like the center of all this humanitarian walk that they started in El Salvador, and they ended up there. So we have a lot of organizations that are working with these communities, and so it's also the problem that it gets to for them to be in Hempstead. It's because for other communities, like white communities, they start going away. So they're going to Suffolk County, for example, because they're running away from this community.
In plain Bronx language, we call that white flight. I mean, where they're
exactly
leaving, and we've had it on the Grand Concourse, and I mean, we know what's gone on in the borough of the Bronx as regards this. And you're saying it's happening on Long Island as well.
Exactly, yeah. And then, but we also have another, middle class immigrants who live there who are not a part of the, the same path that's happening there.
This to me is really just so disturbing because it's very easy to stereotype immigrants or Hispanic people or say, well, and make the assumption that they have a certain economic status or lack of economic status. But you're saying, really, many are just live like everybody else in towns along Long Island.
Yeah, they're lawyers, doctors, or journalists. They're
of course, and again, not a surprise to us in the borough of the Bronx. You also, we were talking previously, and this is going to lead us into what we're ultimately going to get to today. You were talking about the size of the undocumented population. Characterize that population for me. If you
we're trying to understand how many undocumented we have on Long Island, but we don't know because there's not a register of that. But there's also the people that you can see, and that you can go to the organizations and work with them, and then they're undocumented, and then you can know their stories. So what we do, it's not thinking about them as a number, but we think of them as a human being. These are families, there's our kids, there are parents who live there. So we're trying to actually stay away from the numbers and be like, okay, let's talk about the stories. Let's put these faces on the screen and tell America that these people are not bad hombres, like we heard.
Like we've heard. And I will tell our viewers that we're going to, in a little while, take a break. And when we come back from that break, we're going to specifically talk about the situation with undocumenteds and the expectations as we get into a Trump presidency. But I don't want to get into that yet. We'll save that for the second half. Now I love talking to, I hate to put it this way, outsiders, people who are not from the Bronx. Characterize what you understand about the Bronx Latino population, and do you see similarities or differences? It's always interesting for us to hear what other people are saying about it.
Well, I think we have some similarities, but what we understand on Long Island about the Bronx is more about Puerto Ricans and Dominicans who live here.
Right.
We have a different population on Long Island. The majority of our Hispanic community is Central American, and so. But
excuse me, I find that fascinating. I mean, and yes, you're right, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the Bronx, Puerto Rican, and Dominican populations would be large. Not that we don't have other Hispanics, but
Yeah.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
So it's pretty much that's what we see about the Bronx. But also one of the things that we see on Long Island, comparing with the Bronx, is that you guys have here a lot of spaces for the Hispanic community. You can see
We have the infrastructure.
Yeah, well, and as you're closer to the city, it's easier to get access or have access to different facilities for the Hispanic community. On Long Island, which is spread, people don't have cars. People can't drive because they don't have a driver license.
Right.
The life is different than here in the Bronx.
That's fascinating. Of course, we have many empowerment organizations, community organizations. There are certainly many places that you can, even here on BronxNet television, where you can get Hispanic broadcasting or materials in Spanish. I know in my buildings we're actually having a board election, and we're translating those documents into Spanish. But you're saying it's more of a struggle on Long Island because that infrastructure is not there. This is really, I have no idea. Obviously, I'm not an Hispanic man. Is there a difference between, other than the fact that they speak Spanish, between the nature of the people or the type of people that come from Central America versus the type of people that come from Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic, or is that really not a fair question? Because look, everybody's the same.
There is a big difference there.
I was worried I was going to step into something I was not going to be able to get myself out.
No, you're totally right. The census of the population there tells that a lot of Central American immigrants usually work in not the same industries are like Colombians or Venezuelans, or South Americans are usually more into lawyers or doctors. They have more this kind of jobs. Central Americans are more into restaurants, or they work in the farms. But it's usually because it's a different immigration way.
Yes, and also, what's interesting, and again, this is really very amateurish, but it's based on what I just heard. And you talked about families settling in Long Island versus, let's say, settling in the Bronx or Brooklyn or in New York City. That would explain why they might gravitate toward Long Island more than if you say they were farmers or had that, because there certainly is more of that opportunity on Long Island. I also hate to ask this, but in this climate in America and in New York, we have to ask it. What's the acceptance like and the interaction like between established communities and the new Latinos that are moving in? Is it like this? Or is there a sense of, like I like to think we have in the Bronx, that you ultimately have so many people get acclimated or even integrated with each other?
Well,
It's a tough question. I know.
Is.
I put it right on the spot, folks.
It is. I mean, I love Long Island. It's my place, but yeah, we have issues there. So usually the areas where the new Latinos get there, the other people start moving, and so they start having issues or problems with their businesses, of course, because it's a different public that is going to be going to the restaurants or going to buy clothes or going to buy shoes. So you're not going to sell the same shoes at $200. You're going to have to start selling your shoes at a $100.
Right. Last question before we take a break is, and that will lead us into our next dialogue. Do you have a sense, or is it too early, because we are seeing these signs all over the place, that there is an uptick of, I hate to use the word hate crime, but maybe of this kind of prejudice that's being expressed as we now move toward a Trump presidency?
Well, we're scared.
You're scared?
We're scared. We had, maybe you remember about this, in 2008, Marcelo Lucero got killed in Patchogue, Long Island. Some kids who were actually chasing Hispanic people killed him when he was going to the train station. This was like a big thing back in days, and so now, some months ago, Trump decided to go and make a rally there. So people were like freaking out. They were like, "Well, I mean, you have all Long Island to go, and then you decided to go to the same place.
Do you think he did that because of that?
Well, but we don't know. But people got that sense of fear, and then now people are like, so what's gonna happen?
Right. Okay, so let's do this. First of all, I do want to thank my producer Jayla Jubetis, who brought Jose here, and you know me, come on, he's not a Bronx guy, but Jose is just a fantastic guest, and we're learning a lot. And so we're going to ask you to take a break, and we'll take a break with you. And then when we come back, we're going to hear some sound that was recorded at the Somos El Futuro conference that went on last week. You'll hear some of our elected officials. And we're going to finish our interview with Jose and talk very specifically about prospects for undocumented and other immigrants here in the United States, and of course, specifically on Long Island and in the Bronx. Don't go away. The Buzz will be back.
Hi, I'm David Lesh, legal correspondent to the Morning Show Open. If you have a legal question that you'd like me to answer, please send me an email at davidlesh@bronxnet.org, and I will address it on our Ask Your Lawyer segment.
Hey, I'm Darren Jaime. I'm the host of Wednesdays Open right here on BronxNet Television, Channel 67, and also on Verizon Fios, Channel 33. Want to invite you every Wednesday. You get an opportunity to see what's going on in the world of news, current events, debates, public information. That's what happens here on Open every Wednesday. So we invite you to join us right here on BronxNet Television.
I love taking care of my mom. It wasn't easy at first. She learned how to better communicate her needs.
And you learned how to not ignore yours.
I discovered how to make healthier meals.
And I discovered how much I enjoyed them.
Becoming a caregiver is a learning experience for everyone. Find articles, tips, and tools from experts and others who have been in your place. The Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving.
If you want to stay in the know about the latest happenings in Español, check out Diálogo Abierto, BronxNet's own Spanish show, Wednesdays, 6:30 p.m. on Channel 67. The latest in news, arts, culture, politics, and what's going on in your neighborhood. Diálogo Abierto, the best way to stay connected in Spanish. See you there. Te esperamos.
So you see, son, good manners are important. Should I go through it again?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Exactly. Always say please, thank you, you're welcome, excuse me, sit up straight, hold doors open for ladies. If the door's locked, knock first. Don't burp, don't swear, don't stare, don't use bad language, or talk with your mouth full. Keep your elbows off the table.
What table?
And don't interrupt. Cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze. On the bus, give your seat up to anybody who has trouble standing. Bottom line, treat others the way you want to be treated. Got it?
Got it.
Good talk.
Most parenting is hard to do in just 2 minutes. But 2 minutes twice a day making sure they brush is easier, and it could help save them from a lifetime of tooth pain.
Hey, it's Ava, and this is Tess from Vivo's Do-It-Yourselfie, where we recreate the hottest looks from today's biggest music videos.
After cleaning out our closet, we have a lot of clothes we don't wear anymore.
Like this old t-shirt.
It's not garbage, it's actually a brand new rug.
And to make it, all you need to do is cut, tie, and glue.
Cut the t-shirt into strips.
Tie the strips into knots.
And glue the knots to the bath mat. I love it. Give your garbage another life.
And recycle.
Hey, did you know 2.4 million loving cats and dogs in shelters and rescues need our help to find a home? Let's go to the shelterpetproject.org and meet a few who are in a shelter near you. Harlow, oh, she's one great listener who loves to hear all your stories. My kind of cat. Cerulo is a sweet, goofy boy who's eager to please. Sounds just like another dog I know. So go to the shelterpetproject.org, search your local shelters and rescues, and go for a cuddle with your next best friend. Adopt.
Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. Our guest, Jose Martinez from Noticia, Long Island. I do want to show you this. Our good friend Javier Gomez, who runs and is the host of Diálogo Abierto here on BronxNet Television, was at the conference in Puerto Rico with many of our elected officials right after Election Day. And as you know, there were no elected Republicans in the Bronx, so they were all Democrats. And as you can imagine, they were all really not very happy on the morning after Election Day when they all convened in Puerto Rico for their conference. So Javier went about chatting with a couple of them. I thought we would just show you that and use that as a jumping off point for our interview with Mr. Martinez. So let's roll the tape and take a look.
The first thing we have to do is reassure people that a President Trump cannot just pull a lever and start deporting people. It's very hard for him to actually execute on a lot of these things. He said a lot of things during the campaign. He said a lot of things that were contradictory.
One of the things that we've tried to communicate to everyone is don't agonize, organize, and that we've got an opportunity now to understand what the obstacles are in front of us.
We are going to do everything to stand united and to continue to affirm our values. We are going to protect all of what we have put forth.
We're going to analyze and psychoanalyze this election for many years to come, right? And the fact is that Donald Trump, as a candidate, hurt, insulted, and offended a lot of communities, namely the Latino community. We gotta hope that President Donald Trump will be different than candidate Donald Trump.
Well, that just gives you a sample. Obviously, as time goes on, we'll bring them on to Bronx Talk, and we'll learn more about what people think about what's to come. I thought what the borough president said was very interesting, saying, and I thought of this even leading up to election night, that this is going to be analyzed for many, many years, that this is an historic moment. Of course, many people thought it would be historic because Hillary Clinton was going to break the glass ceiling, but it's historic for other reasons. And I'm older than you, and I remember in 1968 we had the concept in the book called The Selling of the President, which was a revelation about how Richard Nixon became president. This is going to be a whole new era about
and I think it's going to be also a part of getting used to that, because people need to understand and you need to act the way it's happening. You know, it's like you don't have any other option.
You have to react to what the reality is. Yeah.
Exactly.
I want to ask you very specifically about the undocumented and what people are saying, what your readers are saying, what people come on your TV show are saying. We certainly are hearing a lot of fear out there. People are worried that their families will be broken up, etc. What do you hear? What do you think?
Well, last week it was really, really hard for us because when we were actually closing the edition, we got all these calls because we were closing on Tuesday night while we were getting all the results. So we started receiving all these calls, like, what do we do?
Right away.
Right away,
wow.
yeah. So we got all these calls and people on social media, and then we were like, we don't know. We need to get your answers. So we were live immediately on Facebook and telling, you need to calm down, and we are gonna try to get the information for you. So now what we're trying to do is explaining to people what are their ways to get out of this. And first of all, they need to calm down.
Teaching them about a path to citizenship?
It's actually understand. For example, one of the things, it's like it's not going to be automatic. They're not going to go to their houses and knock the door and take them out, because that's not how a deportation works.
Right.
But they need to start taking care of themselves and then go to the lawyer and get information to understand what are their options, and if they already have a deportation order, they need to be careful.
I want to interject a couple of things. One, we were talking about just a moment ago. Mario Cuomo, see that? Andrew Cuomo, basically said that New York was going to be a haven, and they were going to do what they could to, be a place where undocumenteds could, at least survive. Rahm Emanuel said the same thing in Chicago, but this relates directly to what you said. The LAPD said that they would not be an immigration force and in essence do what you said, knock on the doors and and start, taking
Exactly.
people out
We
of
have
their
the
home.
same thing on Long Island. The police is not with ICE, so people think it's going to be an automatic thing. It's not.
It's not going to be like that.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I have great sympathy for people who come from other countries where they do that sort of thing, and I can understand that fear right away because they think that's like how it's done. Hopefully that's not going to be how it might be done. It's worth noting, though, that President Obama did deport maybe 2.3 million people, and at this moment Donald Trump is talking about 2 million people. Is it a matter of a level of fear or a lack of control? In other words, why would the fear be greater now? Is it because he said it and Obama just kind of did it? I mean, can you draw the differences, or is it a matter of policy?
I think it's the rhetoric of, it's the tone of Donald Trump. Because, of course, I think people understand there are laws that, force the government to go to an amount of deportations annually. So they understand that's happening. But the thing is that the tone that he's using, it's also getting to other people, not only undocumented, but also immigrants who are already citizens. And then at this point, you don't know, because the attacks or, all this kind of hate that you can see in some places of the country, they don't care if the people are undocumented or not. It's just because they're brown.
Yeah, right.
So.
Jose, as we wrap up the show, I make you promise you'll come back?
Of course.
That's
I'll
what
come
we
back.
like. Thank you.
You have to go to my show too.
Oh yeah, I'm ready. You just tell me when. Jose Martinez, Noticia, Long Island. We can find you on the web, right?
Of course,
and
yeah.
That's how we can do it. And we really appreciate you coming up to the BX today. And as I hope you discovered, and I knew we would, that we all have a lot more in common than we have in difference. And that's, I think, a message we're going to have to learn and remind ourselves of the next at least 4 years. So we'll say goodnight to you. We'll be back on the Bronx Buzz next week. And, of course, on Bronx Talk on Monday night. Good night.
If you want to stay in the know about the latest happenings in Español, check out Diálogo Abierto, BronxNet's own Spanish show, Wednesdays, 6:30 p.m. on Channel 67. The latest in news, arts, culture, politics, and what's going on in your neighborhood. Diálogo Abierto, the best way to stay connected in Spanish. See you there. Te esperamos.
Hi, I'm David Lesh, legal correspondent to the morning show Open. If you have a legal question that you'd like me to answer, please send me an email at davidlesh@bronxnet.org, and I will address it on our Ask Your Lawyer segment.
Every Monday night at 9, we talk to the borough's movers and shakers about the latest in Bronx politics, education, healthcare, arts and culture, and literally any and everything that's important to the people of the Bronx. There's a reason why Bronxites have been turning to Bronx Talk for more than 20 years, because Bronx Talk is about you and me, the people of the Bronx. So we'll see you Monday night at 9.
Hey, I'm Darren Jaime. I'm the host of Wednesdays Open right here on BronxNet Television, Channel 67, and also on Verizon Files, Channel 33. Want to invite you every Wednesday. You get an opportunity to see what's going on in the world of news, current events, debates, public information. That's what happens here on Open every Wednesday. So we invite you to join us right here on BronxNet Television.